we could or should or can or do are able to unify in this country around the idea that this flag does not represent tyranny, but the desire to remove it from us as a group, as a nation, as a people. And that's what our Bill of Rights is about. That's what our Declaration of Independence is about. That's why those things are so important. If you're actually an American, right? And if you're not, okay, cool, right? Or if you like the idea of freedom of speech, right? That kind of thing matters. So to cling to this, I don't think it's wrong as a pastor to say this, right? That this is your duty as a Christian. If you're a Christian, it is your duty to submit to Caesar. Well, who's Caesar? Thank God Caesar is. We believe that all men are created equal and endowed with certain inalienable rights that then is listed in that first 10 Bill of Rights, right? That's Caesar. And we're supposed to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. What a joy to be an American and a Lutheran and a Christian. What an amazing free conscience we have, as opposed to being somewhere where it really was like, oh, the king said we're illegal. I guess we all go to jail now. Let's line up, right? I mean, that could morally be made an argument by a pastor. I'm not sure I would make that argument myself, but it could be, right? You don't have to deal with that right now. Or again, the question of the parable of the sower does come into play. How would we as a group deal with such kinds of persecution? Do we want persecution? I've heard people say this, because it's been said before that the church is watered by the blood of the martyrs. The idea that persecution does grow the church. I've heard that said as if somehow we should be praying for persecution, but I don't think that's quite how it works. You don't ever want the cross, or it's not really the cross. And persecution doesn't have to be that they just try to silence you by bringing laws against you, although that may still be coming. And who knows, right? Who knows? But persecution means, at least in the parable of the sower, when we're talking about the sun which scorches those who have no root, right? It's not just about how they're having somebody put a sword to their throat. It's about how their faith is not deeply connected enough to the actual words of the Holy God to live through the just punishment for their sin, which is the scorching wrath of that God. That's the ultimate thing there, right? And so when the cross of what just is our existence while we wait for his return, playing itself out in a lot of ways, though providentially cared for so that the vast majority may be saved, or whatever number the elect actually is may be saved, while all that's going on, right? The cross is what is going to press us both into greater joy and understanding, and also, well, into a awareness of how much we cannot beat it ourselves. We don't get to pick that. And it's not always a soldier with a sword. It could also just be a very entertaining culture with a story that sounds a lot better. Now, maybe someday it turns into both. And in the book of Revelation, although this is a little bit of a twist here, but the book of Revelation, there are two beasts that are seen at a certain time. And both of these beasts represent two different forms. I'm swiping at a fly. Two different forms of government that we should expect to exist in the world until Jesus returns, as things abused by the devil in the hands of evil men to try to hurt all things, because that's what the devil does. He's filled with malice, and he wants to destroy, but especially he wants to destroy those of Christ, those of the church. So these two beasts, again, one out of the land, one out of the sea, are figuratively given other symbolic imagery that connects or ties them to Rome, the military civil might of the age, and to Jerusalem, the spiritual or Pharisaic, Sadduceic leadership of the age, both powers of which were set against Christianity in the first century. And that it is true historically that the people who received John's letter would have been able to say, I get it. So what we see is that the synagogue is in fact driving us out, and God is saying that is what's going to happen, and it's over, and we have to separate from the synagogue and know it's against us. And also that Rome will never really be for us either, right? That was what narrowly was being given to them by John in the letter through this, again, apocalyptic code language that he used, which is all symbolism. All these people who want to say that, the Revelation is literal, but the Bible has a code. It's like, what? Anyway, a different topic. These two beasts, then, we also can see, because Revelation is both a specific moment in time when John speaks to his church, as he's the elder or the bishop of that area in exile, and also to all time at once. Not a specific time in the future, but that this is a picture of the way it always is behind the fourth dimension of what's going on in heaven and the war between the angels and the demons. And so, in that, there is always these two powers that are in fact given by God. The power of the civil reality that there is a king, that he bears a sword to protect, and that this is who Christ is ultimately, right? But that in this age, that office is given to others and or taken by others. That really does exist in the world as a gift of God, but it also is going to be abused because men are evil and men turn good things into evil things for themselves, and that the church is supposed to be forewarned that there will be times when it will be against you. It will try to take Christ from you. And then similarly, there will be false churches, right? False spiritualities, not just false religions, but false Christianities, false Christs who come and say that they are he, but they are not he. And that also will always be a threat against the church. No church congregation, group of people, family can say, well, we're Christians just because, and it's always going to be because, well, if you fail to watch and pray, honestly, the devil prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Whose story are you listening to? There's the question there a little bit. But then again, to know. So we should always expect a threat from fake churches, churches that say we're Jesus following churches, but they're lying about something, usually pretty obviously if you read the Bible. And then you also have those who are a threat to Christianity, which are tyrannical earthly powers that try to overstep their ability to say, don't kill, don't commit adultery, don't cheat and steal, and instead begin to say, believe in us, follow us, do this, we create truth.